Who has a 100-word summary of all the trouble you guys got up to in our first session?
We rolled like level 1 characters the entire session.
Pretty good.
That's pretty much it. Just us constantly.
We got attacked by a
on...
lightning man. There was a lightning man.
There was lightning.
There was
man?
multiple men.
Yeah, we didn't have the hard knuckle to counteract Lightning Man, so we had to make do with what we had.
We met some charlatan who's claiming they're a descendant of Eldov.
Okay, McDohl said it best. Not McDohl. McLean said it best in the chat. He called that guy an Eldov cosplayer, and
Yeah, but wasn't Eldov kind of an Eldov cosplayer?
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
It's just like a what's that guy that puts the pictures like low cost cosplay where he's just like uses fruit and stuff. Like he's like that kind of Eldov cosplayer.
Yeah.
Cosplayers have been doing that since time immemorial. Need to be a little more specific, Treble.
There's that chubby Asian guy that like he'll get up and he'll use like trash and things and like fruit and stuff to just make himself look like Piccolo. Like he'll paint his face green and
This
like,
is gonna
stick up
be
a dead
guy. He'll get up and he'll use trash. Love that guy.
I'm gonna just stop explaining things.
Probably for the best.
Probably for the best, yeah.
So, are we gonna... We got about 8 words into that 100-word summary before we got sidetracked by trash Asians. So, what else you got? Sidetrashed.
So we discovered. So like McDohl said, we finally met the gentleman who we are 3,000 gold in debt to, and we got some curiosities about a whole bunch of new moss caps in town being moved around. We think it might be a power play by the jailer of the city. Yeah, and like I said, there was one of the there's this rumor flying around that the king of Dunfoss is actually dead, and that the palace is covering it up.
So I want to play a fun game. Well, actually, first I have some. I want to finalize some character stuff if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
Treble. You are not a member of any particular guilds in the city, correct?
Not currently, no.
Okay.
No, not currently.
Because your end goal is to like try to start one of your own. What about Florian?
Florian's part of the Signers.
The Signers Guild.
Yeah.
And Lucius.
I have to scroll up and find the name. But he is a member of the guild, yes. Please give me a moment.
As I recall, Alexander is a member of Yalari, the Sylvan Magic Guild.
Yep.
Because Daddy made you.
Yep.
And Seeker.
Diviner.
Okay. So what I'm... probably what I'm going to do is I have my calendar here. And probably like the first of each month are when your various dues and taxes and bills will come due.
Okay.
So you owe...
To listen is apt. Oh, go ahead.
Really apt?
To listen is apt, yeah.
Okay. So your dues are probably very, very expensive. So the 6th and 18th of every month you owe not Eldov money.
Yep.
And then probably the 1st of every month you'll have to pay some dues to your guild, whether that be gold pieces or some services or whatever. I'll have to sit down and worry about it. I haven't worried about it yet because there's a lot of different guilds in town, and these 4 are now the most important in the whole city. Gustavus doesn't have any kind of magic yet.
No, not yet.
Florian. If the question were to come up, where does Florian say is the source of his magic?
Oh, wow.
Because a learned spellcaster can kind of tell the spell that you're casting by looking at the motions or listening to the words or whatever.
Hmm.
And there can be a difference between arcane magic being cast by a wizard versus magic that's cast by a bard using an instrument versus divine magic being cast by a cleric or a druid. But I imagine that this kind of spell casting is also disguisable, because there's nothing in the mechanics that defines arcane casting as you have to hold a crystal ball and a wand and wear a pointy hat or whatever. So what does your magic appear like to others? The reason this might be important is because people are likely to treat you differently, by which I mean other spellcasters are likely to treat you differently depending on whether you appear to be a wizard or a warlock or a druid or etc.
Well,
For example, I imagine for Alexander, he's already answered this question. His spellcasting always takes the appearance of like pulling some gadget out of his belt pouch, shark repellent or whatever it is.
Right. I mean, I might also, I might at some point build a wand and infuse it with magic so it looks a little more traditional, but literally by the rules, I always have to use an item to cast spells.
And that's what made me think, like, the Artificer has that specific rule. I think it might be interesting to try to codify this for other classes, with the understanding that it's something that's disguisable, because outside of the Artificer, there really is no convention for it. But as an example of what I mean, like a cleric spell with a verbal component would take the form of a prayer, whereas a bard version of the same spell would take the form of a song or a poem. Like Seeker, I imagine, because you were a charlatan before you actually became a real boy. Like you've made a big show of reading a crystal ball or casting tarot cards or playing with little salt crystals.
Seeker has a quill as his spell focus, and he uses it to draw star charts in the sky, in the air.
Yeah.
And those cast his spells.
Okay, so that to me says everybody looking at Seeker, they can tell he's a wizard. He's doing arcane, kind of offbeat, but still sort of traditional arcane casting. He has a magic what's-it, and he waves it around, and magic happens.
I gotta think about this, because that was just my cursory interpretation, since an Automancer is a wizard, and he has an arcane focus that he uses. It's a crystal scepter, I think I said.
You could draw names in the sky.
But drawing the power of names for something.
Yeah, it's something you could think about. We don't need to have an answer right now. Lucius might actually have some incentive to disguise spellcasting, because the problem with being a warlock is it means you have a friend that's a devil.
Yep.
Even if you don't, it does. Even if you're a warlock of the Fae or the Celestial or whatever. Most people associate warlocks, especially in Kiska, and you're a Tiefling, so you're already kind of a devil anyway.
Yeah, I know.
So what does he have to lose?
Exactly. Maybe it's just more acceptable. Like, nobody wants to step on his culture and heritage here.
Calls up Dad for favors.
Just getting mad at them. Like, you're a warlock. That's evil.
So
I am a Tiefling, sir.
The question for Lucius is, like, do you lean into it, and is that how you project? Is that, like, the personality you project to others? Like, hey, I'm this weird, foreign-tailed monster person, and I have devil magic, and that's just who I am?
I would imagine that Lucius actually tries to keep his spellcasting on the down low as best he can. I mean, saving people on stage, notwithstanding.
Okay.
But he tries to keep he conjures, like, his Eldritch Blast is conjured from a crystal sphere. But some of his more esoteric magic would require some kind of physical display of the infernal magic.
Okay.
I have an idea,
Okay.
and you're gonna hate it.
I don't ever hate an idea.
No, you're gonna hate this.
All right, let's see.
So, it's basically when he learns the name of something, he can draw power from it, right?
Yeah.
Operative word being draw, and I'm thinking Final Fantasy VIII, where you draw abilities.
Uh-oh.
I have been playing Final Fantasy VIII lately.
Where he just absorbs something from whatever he's named, whatever has the name of. So you can't disguise it at all. It's very overt.
So from like the nearest thing, so like if you're like using like a fire spell, like the nearest fire will just have a light come from it
like
to you.
Your magic missiles is like just drawing like the essence of force from like the earth.
Yes.
Okay.
Good, I love it.
So this is going to appear to be very overt and weird to most, even other spellcasters, because it's kind of it's kind of an obscure school of magic that you have selected.
The stranger, the better.
Okay, so here's a little game that I want to play. We might play it at the start of every session or most sessions, or we'll see how it goes. I have a list here of open questions, and I want to see if your guys' list of open questions matches mine. This will help me realize like what plot threads I should develop, which plot threads I should leave dangling. I have 4 of them from last session. What do you guys think?
I think I've got 3.
What do you think?
Mine would be obviously what's going on with the Fireblood Estate and the Descendant of Eldov, what's going on with Alanis Ruxby and the Dragon Powder Order, and what's going on with the Change of Guards and the Moss Caps.
I want to know.
You got 2 of my 4. I hadn't included Fireblood on the list because that's kind of going to be the main plot.
Okay.
But yeah, that's an open question.
Where what's his name came from?
What's his name?
Who's our Ponce?
Corneo.
Ponce.
Yeah, where he came from.
Corneo.
The other 2 questions I listed on my open questions are who tried to kill Percival Penniless, and why is the Keyskin ambassador sailing?
Oh, I forgot about that. No, those are both good questions.
Okay.
Yeah, those are worth asking.
Yeah. I'm not disinterested in either of those, if that's what you're using this to gauge.
I'm disinterested in a lot of these. And from now on, the whole campaign is going to be you guys fighting living spells.
Yeah. The other thing to keep in mind if we're going to play this game is my memory is absolutely atrocious. And once reminded of something, I will tell you whether I find it interesting. It has no bearing on whether I remember it.
Here's what I want you to do, try, Nodal, because this helps with me sometimes, is click the start button on your Windows machine and type Notepad.
Okay.
It pulls up this program. It's really cool. You can like type letters and words into it.
Yeah, I'll read to you the list of notes that I generate at the end of this, and I'm sure you'll find them very helpful.
Just,
as
you know
helpful
what?
as I do.
Do this on a Google Doc instead, and then just share it with me. And that way I can laugh and drink.
Yeah.
Well, listen, we know how bad my notes taking is.
Treble's notes were so bad, he literally played the first few rooms of Tomb of Horrors, took notes on them, played the exact same dungeon, read the exact same way, and messed everything up.
Okay, so one of my character players, you met him at AGDQ.
Yeah.
He wrote down notes one time for someone who wasn't going to be there one session, and thought they were super helpful. He opened up the notes and found, "Dragon, we met it."
I felt bad actually at AGDQ because we met that guy and he was super cool and I liked hanging out with him, but I didn't know him that well. So I didn't have like a lot to talk to him about. It wasn't until like the last day that I learned he was one of your players. I'm like,
Yeah.
we could have spent the whole week slacking off Nodal. That would be great.
Yeah, it would have been a good time.
All right. So, it is a day.
It is.
It'll be the 14th Julian Yules. You guys have 500 gold due on the 18th.
Yeah. That's a lot.
What's the name of our secretary?
That's a good question. I don't have that in front of me.
Diane?
It's Nodal.
Is her name
Nodal.
gonna...
You made it up.
It's like Lois Westerhoff, and that's the only way I can remember it.
It's like Lisa Westerhoff.
I had
Lisa
Linda,
Westerhoff.
but that
Love
was a
it.
guess.
Her name's just gonna change every session now. That's fine.
She just rolls with it.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right. So what are we doing on the 14th? What's our plans for today?
So, do you think we should look into the we need to continue to look into the dragon powder first because we need the money.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex personally is interested in going and investigating this foreign noble.
Which foreign noble?
It's gonna be, his name is Elenus Ruxby.
Ah, Ruxby. Okay. To that end, how are you approaching this task? All you know so far is that he apparently got this license to purchase dragon powder on the cheap, under very shady circumstances, and the trail's gone cold on his manservant that he had sent out to make the deal.
I guess I'll start by trying to research if... Do we know what nation he's from?
You don't know anything about him.
Yeah, well, let's just try and find out, see if I can find where he stayed or anyone who has any idea about where he's from.
Where are you doing this? Where, just canvassing the streets? Or are you gonna hit up contacts?
Yeah, I think I'd start by moving around. Do I have any? I don't even have any idea where he was staying in the city, right? Which district?
No.
I'll start in the district that's closest to the office that issued the license.
Okay.
Just think maybe it's convenient.
Do you want me to help you so that we can cover this faster?
I mean, I'm pretty okay doing this unless you have nothing else to do.
I can't think of anything else to do. That was where is he staying was the question that I was going to bring up.
All right. What is Seeker going to be doing today?
So, you told us, oh god. I remember your last name. So-and-so Udoc. McDohl.
Yeah.
Help me out here.
Lucius.
Lucius. I got half of it. Lucius, you told us that person was warning you to get your family's businesses out of the city, right? That things were going to go down real bad. That sounds like something I could look into. I think I'm going to disguise myself as a noble and maybe go hang out in the better part of town.
You're proficient in disguise kit?
Yes.
And let me pull up the town map here. And you can tell me where you're going. And the intent is to find out what... something about the Keyskin ambassador, specifically?
Specifically, what big changes are going down in the city? Because I heard the king might be dead.
Mm.
People think, at least the lower level people think he is. And that sounds like something that could shake things up real bad. What do we know about the potential kings? Are any of them known to be very against foreigners?
The idea of a foreign king isn't impossible, but it hasn't happened for a very, very long time. So, nobody's actually campaigning against foreigners in general, because a lot of trade is done in Dunfoss.
Then yeah, it seems very odd to me that a change in king would lead to Kiska pulling out, because that seems like something that they would take as an opportunity. There's a new regime, we should look into this.
Okay. So where are you going to go to put your ear to the ground?
You were saying most of the rich people hung out in West Harbor, right?
Where the palace itself is in East Harbor.
You could think of High Bluffs as being where a lot of aristocracy lives. You could think of South Harbor, or as where a lot of the aristocracy does business.
Okay.
Specifically, maritime trade from the harbor.
Yeah, let's go nosing around in South Harbor. I'll put myself out as someone who wants to invest in some Keyskin businesses and see what kind of results that brings me.
Are you proficient in history?
I don't believe so. No.
Okay, make a disguise.
I have a +5.
Make your disguise kit check. I was going to give it to you at advantage if you had a proficiency in history, because that would entail that you actually know quite a lot about Keyskin nobility already.
If only I had a Keyskin nobility to ask.
If only.
Are you doing this disguise before you leave in the morning?
Yeah.
Then Alexander is there putting a cigarette in your mouth and casting guidance on you as you do it.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
So do all 5 of you smoke? Is smoking cool in Dunfoss?
I guess it is now.
I smoke when Alexander's around.
Florian does not smoke.
You do when you try to make a skill check.
That's a 13.
13. Okay. What is Florian doing today?
Thank you, Destil.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Do the signers keep records?
Oh, yeah. Remember, they're a very new guild. They're not more than
Okay.
10 or 12 years old or so.
Then what Florian is going to do is he's going to do research on previous dealings that this Ruxman character has done.
Okay.
If any.
How diligent... So, actually, 2 questions that are going to develop Florian a little bit here. How diligent is Florian in keeping in the Signers Guild good graces? Do you pay your dues on time and you do your duties for the guild when asked, etc.?
Yes.
Okay. And second, does Florian have aspirations of moving up in this guild, or is he content to just be the low level?
Absolutely not.
No, none at all. Okay.
This is a fun little thing for him to do. He doesn't want to be Rowan Darkwood.
So here's what I want you to do.
Aspirations for that whatsoever.
How much money are you willing to invest in this?
Ooh.
As far as hiring one of the records keepers to go through and help you find what you're looking for.
How much do we have in party loot?
I'm talking in terms of silver pieces. This is not
okay.
something you would have to waste, especially as a member of the guild in good standing.
Let's do 50 silver pieces.
Okay. Go ahead and crack Xanathars. Under downtime actions, they have rules for doing research. Go ahead and make that... I forget what kind of check. It's some kind of intelligence check or something, I'm sure. Go ahead and make that check. Add a +5 to your roll. And what is Lucius going to be doing today?
Lucius is going to be looking into seeing how far he can get on. See, so according to my notes, we've got we got kind of our big one, which is Elda or Choreo Fireblood.
Mm-hmm.
We have my notes suck. God.
I feel your pain.
Yes, Choreo Fireblood. We've got the Keyskin Ambassador, which is what Seeker's looking into. We had the Dragon Powder thing, which I think that was Alex, right?
Yeah.
See, what else did we have? Because I'm trying to get on something so that we're all working towards something here.
You can also work the same thing, just from a different angle. There's multiple ways to approach a problem.
And in future, if I'm ever doing something and you want to join me, just speak up then, so that I know to change my plans.
Let's look into the Keyskin Ambassador issue again.
Okay.
This Lucius is going to look at it from a perspective of what because he wants to send the letter, but he wants to be fully informed about what he was being what his family is going to be pulling out of. So he's going to go into South Harbor, and he's going to look around for any Budok business dealings and see, just get an idea of what kind of business dealings the Budok family has in Dunfoss.
Well, I would say that you already have that information. Just being a member of the family, you would already know what the business dealings are here.
Okay.
Like, you guys took over a village near a lake.
Yeah.
It's a couple 100 miles away.
Love that lake.
It's a pretty good lake.
Sorry, I'm having a lot of trouble organizing my thoughts. The
Yeah, me
wedding
too.
upcoming is
Did you watch
making
that
me
same episode of BoJack?
No. I'm getting married in a week, Brick Road.
I did that. I don't recommend it.
I think it worked out great.
Can you come back to me?
Sure.
There's no one else.
Good luck.
Oh wait, yeah, there's.
So,
We can do our stuff.
searching through West Harbor, let's get a individual checks from Gustavus and Alexander.
Mm-hmm.
Wisdom plus investigation.
And I am, of course, using guidance on myself for this.
Okay.
Sorry, I can only do one person because it's concentration.
Love.
Ooh,
So
that was almost a 1.
20. Wow, that's 25.
And Gus got what?
15. So that not terrible. It's like 17 minus 2.
That's not terrible. Searching through West Harbor, attempting to learn anything about Ruxby. Nothing catches your attention. People don't seem to know the name. However, Alexander, one or two people that you come across know the name Thettle.
Mm-hmm.
All you really learn, though, is that he's apparently a newcomer to Dunfoss. He's somebody's servant. Nobody really knows whose. But he does spend a considerable time in West Harbor. So it's thought that, he's just the servant of some, like a merchant tradesman or something who's currently moored in the harbor, taking shore leave or whatever. What's curious about it, though, is that Thettle doesn't seem to frequent taverns or tap houses. He doesn't seem to spend any money. It's just a name that people have heard here and there, and a face that people have seen around West Harbor. Actual interactions with him seem to be very, very slight.
Burgard, I figured out what I want to do. I wanted
Fine.
to look into the assault on Percival Penniless. Find out who did it, if I can figure that out.
Okay, what are you doing to investigate this?
We collected a few of the magical devices we assumed that called those creatures together. So maybe I could do some research on those things. And
Where are you doing this research?
I would do it back on the ship in my office.
Okay, are you trained in Arcana?
I am.
Okay, make an intelligence investigation check. Make it at advantage.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your train of thought there. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't, leaving myself dangling there. That's a 21.
21. Okay.
Yeah.
Sit on that for now.
Sure.
Seeker, you got a 13 on your disguise check. Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Make a wisdom investigation check.
Alright. That is a 17.
17. there's a lot of buzz about the Keyskin ambassador sailing, because that's something that's going to be happening later today. The ship that's supposed to take him back to Kiska is currently moored in South Harbor. They're loading some things onto it. And you managed to have some words with some other Keyskins, both who are sailing with him, as well as with some just dock workers who are busy loading his ship. And the vibe isn't great. It's very negative. It's very surprised. This is going to be a big uprooting, and a lot of people don't understand why. This is going to influence business that Keyskins in town have. It's obviously going to uproot the entire ambassador's house. A lot of his servants and things are going to have to become reestablished elsewhere. And the rank and file don't seem to have any understanding about why he's suddenly leaving. However, the speculation seems to be tied directly to the king. The king is dead. The new king has been selected behind closed doors somewhere. Word got out, got leaked to the ambassador somehow, and he didn't like what he heard. So what they're thinking happened is that Joni Fletcher has been named the official new king. She has ties to House Humberth, and House Humberth has very officially not been anti-Kiska for the past 40 years or so, but they once had a strong connection with Kiska that they no longer have. People are wondering if Joni Fletcher, who is seen as kind of a vassal of House Humberth, has done something to influence Keyskin trade that the ambassador decided he didn't like. That seems to be the most credible rumor that you've heard.
From having talked to people, do I have reason to believe that that can't possibly be the case? That, like, there's no way the vote could have taken place yet?
No, you have no reason to believe that's the case. It's this...
Okay.
From your perspective, I mean, you've seen kings come and go the past... assuming you're older than 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And basically you wake up one morning, you hear that the king has died, there's going to be a process of selection, kind of like when a new pope is picked in the Vatican. It's just something you hear happened. Mm-hmm. And maybe you're really invested in who it's going to be, and maybe you're not, but it's not something you have a lot of control over. It probably wouldn't surprise you to hear that it's been selected behind closed doors and an official announcement has not been made yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see. Is there any other worthwhile avenues of inquiry to this? Are there any, like, merchant houses or, like, banking houses nearby? Like, somewhere where you might go to, like, buy shares of a ship or something?
Probably a lot in West Harbor, yeah. Would you like to do that as your afternoon action?
Yeah, I think I'm going to try to bluff my way into one of the, like, higher up ones of these, because I figured they would have, like, the people who are going to make money off of the king's death would be the people who would secretly know whether the king had died.
Okay.
And whether someone had been elected yet.
Florian, how did
Yes,
your
sir.
research roll go?
I got a 24.
So what does that say that gets you?
That gets me to learn 3 pieces of lore.
Okay. So
21 plus.
here's your conclusion. You were pretty thorough in your research. You went to the Signers Guild. They keep records of who signed what and when, because that's their job as decreed by the crown. If Ruxby had done any dealings in Dunfoss, and he did them legally with the aid of the Signers Guild, they would know. Even if it was just that he made some kind of contract covered in that sparkly powder stuff. Which I gave a really kind of twee name, and then I promptly forgot what it was called. You find nothing. You don't get 3 pieces of lore. You find a 0. There's nothing here. The only way that could really be the case is if the contract you saw was completely fake. which calls into question, where did he get this magic powder that the Signers Guild is supposed to put on these kinds of documents? Either this man doesn't exist, and it does not have any legal dealings in Dunfoss, in which case the contract is fake and he's trying to give it the air of legitimacy, or someone in the Signers has expunged the data. And you're very confident one of these two things has to happen, because with that kind of roll on research, you otherwise would have found a lot.
Interesting. The Signers Guild's not really known for being corrupt, is it? Like, are there like questionable characters in the Signers Guild where it's just like, yeah, no, keep this off the books?
Probably, but you have to remember the Signers Guild was established by the current and lawful king. I mean, lawful alignment-wise. He's a dwarf. And it was done specifically because dwarves had long petitioned in Dunfoss to make sure that magical coercion could not enter into business deals. So it's seen as kind of an incorruptible element. But that's not to say that there aren't bad elements with inside it. For example,
So that would also make them
Florian.
pretty recent, right? Like they'd be less than 8 years old?
Probably about a decade. Probably about 10 years.
Okay.
They would have been established by the current king. He's only been on the throne for 12 years.
Okay.
Good to know.
And Lucius,
Yes.
you're trying to figure out who attacked Percival Penniless?
Yeah. Let's start by looking at like I said, I started by looking at the devices we recovered from the scene.
And you got a 21 on that device.
Yeah.
Is Lucius proficient with crossbows at all?
Let's see. Says simple weapons. Does that include crossbows?
I think so.
Yeah, they're simple ranged. Aside
Yeah.
maybe the hand crossbow, but all the rest are definitely simple weapons.
The magic on these little needles as you're going over is long gone. And you think for a moment you're hitting a dead end. You're not going to be able to get anything magical out of them as far as what the actual magic did when it discharged, where they might have come from, how you might make one. But as you're examining it, you notice like a small hook maybe on the back of it.
Mm-hmm.
On the where the needle has a pointed end that was stuck into whatever it was shot at. The hook of it, at first you think maybe it's just ornamental. Maybe it has some purpose that you're not familiar with yet. But examining it for a while and thinking about it in terms of how you would deliver this object, it seems pretty probable that with a specialized crossbow bolt, this needle could be affixed inside of it in such a way that the needle could be delivered while the crossbow bolt bounces or is deflected away.
Okay.
This causes you to wonder what would happen if one of these would be defective. If you shot it from a crossbow, but the bolt that it's implanted in doesn't discharge the needle. What would happen to the magic then?
Okay.
But you're thinking whoever pulled off this attack used a crossbow to deliver these particular needles.
All right then. I think my next step would be to canvass the area. Percival Penniless would probably be a good candidate. If anybody you saw, if anybody in the area saw anybody carrying a crossbow as a weapon.
Okay. I mean, you see crossbows pretty frequently on the streets.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Typically, if anybody pulls one out and starts waving it around, that's a good time to call the guards.
Yeah.
But it would have to be some kind of customization. It couldn't just be a crossbow that like you commission from a standard barracks.
Mm-hmm.
In order to deliver these kind of things. The only thing you really compare it to is Alexander's weird magical weaponry that he uses sometimes.
Yeah.
Totally no one using a crossbow firing magical devices during that fight.
Nope, not at all.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no. Once I come up with that, then I will definitely go to Alexander for that. That's kind of his wheelhouse. Once I see him next.
That afternoon, you receive a visitor at the barge. Who is present at the barge in the afternoon?
Lucius is working on it, working at the barge for this information. So
Okay.
I guess that'd be where he is at.
Anybody else?
I don't think Florian would be.
Yeah, I think I'm still out doing
I think
investigation.
he would. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
I think he would still be doing research stuff.
But yeah, Lucius, you're told that there's a man here to visit you.
I'll go and greet him.
And a plain man. He's not armed. You do recognize him as one of Percival's entourage from the other day during the attack.
Ah, yes, I think I remember seeing you the other day.
He asks if you and your companions, meaning good old Flumph Inc., would meet with Percival tonight.
I can put that forward for the rest of the group, but I think we're all working on other cases at the moment.
He tells you that Percival suspects that Journey, the Tiefling, wants him dead. And he has some ideas about how she might be going about this and why, but he wants to run them by you all. Being the detectives on scene at the time, you seem like the logical choice to speak to about this.
Mm-hmm.
So he would invite you and your companions to the 56 cards tonight, where he can buy you around and lay out his thoughts and see what you think.
Alright, I'll put it forward to my companions, but I will definitely be there.
And he nods and thanks you for your time. What are Gus and Alex doing this afternoon?
We also get an evening action after this, right?
Yeah, if you don't want to go drinking with Percival Penniless.
Well, no, I want to. I just want to make sure that the afternoon doesn't take that. So learning all of that, I'm going to try and track down that halfling instead.
Okay.
The halfling. Is that that's what the servant was? He was a halfling, right?
Yes.
Yeah. That'll, I believe, is what I have in my notes.
And Gus, you're helping with that?
Yes. Dudes, so question there, Alex. What if, like, did everybody we speak to mention, like, did we speak to anybody that actually had dealings with it, or did we only get, like, whispers of...
You spoke to people that had met this person briefly, but curiously, you don't find any evidence of any kind of dealings. You can't find where he's paid to stay at an inn. You can't find somewhere where he's gone to drink or eats. You can't find a pillow house where he's paid for companionship. He doesn't seem to have any friends. He doesn't seem to be staying anywhere. It's just a face in the crowd that people have met. But very recently, just within the past couple of days.
But he's been seen mostly in East Harbor.
West Harbor, which is where you guys specifically went.
Right.
Actually, what I want to do in that case is I want to go and just investigate all of the ships that have come in the last.
Yes, that's what I was going to suggest.
And see if anybody saw him or someone matching the description of Rexby coming off of a ship.
Because
coming into West Harbor?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's people's speculation, is that he must just be a servant on one of these ships. And what is Florian doing this afternoon?
Florian wants in on that
Okay.
because he needs to figure out the origin of where this character is. Said it was a
If there's
halfling.
3 of us, do we want to split up and cover all the harbors?
that seems fair.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, there's 4.
There are 4 harbors.
Yeah, which one of the? But like, this is they do most of their business here in West Harbor, right? Is what we've established.
East Harbor is kind of the business district of the town.
Mm-hmm.
West Harbor is a little bit lower class, but is also sort of a business district. There's also a lot of residentials. Most likely, merchants that come into town would be going to one of those 2 places.
Mm-hmm.
But West Harbor specifically is where you guys found people that have heard the name Thettle.
I think one. I'm going to investigate West Harbor, I think one of you should check out East Harbor, and the other one should check out both of the 2 remaining harbors.
You
Those are
can't-
less likely.
You're not gonna be able to check both of them in one afternoon.
Okay.
So, of the 3, so what is the difference between South Harbor and High Court Harbor?
High Court Harbor is actually walled in. You have to go through a gate, which means people are going to ask questions about why you're there. Typically, when the king sails, he sails from High Courts.
Let me investigate High Court. My connections with my father can probably get me in easily.
You could also the guards there would also be able to confirm whether or not they've
Yep.
seen the halfling.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll take High Court if one of you wants to get East Harbor and one of you wants to get West Harbor.
Okay.
I think West Harbor is the more important that we check, so I'll take East Harbor because I don't have investigation, and I've only got a +1 to intelligence investigation, and I got -2 to wisdom, and Brooker's going to make us do wisdom because he knows we didn't take any wisdom casters.
What is
Right,
Lucius doing
West
this
Harbor
afternoon?
Lucius is going to leave word with Kevin and the receptionist of Percival Penniless's invitation, and then he is going to catch up. He's going to go find Alex to ask his professional opinion on these crossbow devices.
Okay.
For reference, I'm expecting to come back to the barge for dinner, so you'll know I'll be there. You don't have to go out of your way to find me.
That's fair. But I really have nothing else to do at this point, so...
Okay. Secret, make a deception check.
All right. Since I got into disguise to do this, do you mind if I make an intelligence deception check?
Yeah, that's fine.
Oof, that's a 26.
And what are you hoping to learn as you're bluffing your way into... Well, first of all, you're bluffing your way into one of the trade halls, right?
Yes.
And you're specifically trying to find people who are involved in Keyskin trade?
Yeah, Keyskin trade, just specifically because I think that somebody higher up would have the actual knowledge of whether or not this person had been elected and they were going to take an anti-Keyskin stance. Like, if the ambassador has some source that is so strong that he's willing to up sticks, one of these people must know it as well.
Okay. Are you willing to bribe anybody? Because this might involve getting into a back room that you otherwise wouldn't have access to.
Yeah, I think so. I think this is fairly important. What's a reasonable bribe? Like,
Palming a gold piece or two would be appropriate in this kind of clientele.
that sounds good to me. A couple gold pieces.
Okay.
I'll mark that on the sheet.
You managed to gain access to what is essentially a lounge in one of these high-class trade halls. This is a place where somebody doing business in Kiska or in Dunfoss specifically the room that you find, they're currently gambling. Kind of high-stakes games going around. And not wanting to buy in for 50 gold or 70 gold or whatever ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
But you managed to palm off a gold on one of the serving people and just gain access to the room. And again, the vibe in here is very negative. Everybody in the upper echelons, at least in this area, are upset about the idea of Fletcher being named king and all of these changes she's making. Apparently, they're blaming her for the changing of Mosscap guards, which is potentially disruptive to business at all levels of Dunfoss. They're blaming her for that. They're blaming her for making a spectacle out of that whole business in the shallows yesterday. They're referring to Penniless's attack. They think she's orchestrating this spectacle for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just the Keyskin ambassador. He's the one that has sailed. But apparently the ambassador to... Where's my list of embassies in town? I have a list here. The embassy to Gondriak, which is a dwarven kingdom, is also up in arms. There's no actual dwarves in this room, but there are people that consistently have dealings with them in the metals trade.
Huh.
This would be very, very reckless for a king that has not been even officially named yet to... Because obviously the current king, Maximilian, has ties with Gondriak. This would be a very reckless move, if it's true. But as to specifics of what's been done, nobody seems to know exactly. It's just this air of unsurety, of just like a fog into the future.
Okay. Is there any way to kind of try to follow it back to find out where these people got their information? Because it sounds like everyone has very hazy information. Everyone sounds very confident, but no one really knows where it came from.
Okay. Make a history check.
Okay. $23.
One explanation might be because the previous 3 turnovers of the throne were so tumultuous.
Mm-hmm.
And the previous couple of kings were just really just bad in general. It could just be that seeing the end of this era of stability, this 12 years where nothing much has been in upheaval, is enough to cause people to take flight, to cause people to be on edge.
Yeah.
But what keeps nagging at you is that it's specifically merchants that have ties to the various embassies. The other 2 embassies, major ones, being to Caer Tyrell, which is a mostly human kingdom far to the south,
Mm-hmm.
and to Deep Merksif, which is an embassy to Gnomish lands of the Underdark.
Mm-hmm.
The ambassador to Deep Merksif has a son named Alexander, who works in some kind of ridiculous detective agency.
Huh. Alright. And with that information, I'll make my way back.
Okay. And let's get... It was Florian looking into West Harbor, correct? Inquiring
Yes,
about ships that
sir.
Ruxby might have come in on?
Yes, sir. Well, not just Ruxby. His manservant, too, right?
Settle, yes.
Yeah. But yes, it is Florian.
Okay.
Going into West Harbor.
I think the best you could do from this count is look for a ship that's still moored, and then try to get a look at the ship's manifests. That's going to vary ship by ship, and it's probably going to cost some... It's probably going to cost something, because you're going to have to go to get on the ship, perhaps, or find somebody who has access to the manifests. If you don't have any actual business as to why you're doing this, you're probably going to have to bribe somebody. Alexander, you hit a dead end in High Courts.
Okay.
Apparently this Thettle person has not been seen, has not come through either of the gates when you ask the Moss Caps on the scene.
All right.
And same thing in East Harbor. You don't find a ship that's... He could have come in on. But for Florian, are you willing to bribe some people to see these ship manifests? I'll say a D4 gold for each ship that you want to check, and leave it up to you how many do you want to look into.
What's the party loot at?
We have 148, but it's in a banknote. We have 40 on hand at the ship.
I've got some gold on me that like.
Yeah, I always carry gold on me.
Yeah,
So.
I've got enough to cover one, maybe two.
Make sure you've always got some walking around money.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's not. See, that would not be a thing Florian does, though.
No?
No.
Okay.
He's too weird for that.
Yeah, but trying to find out where Ruxby came in on the ship, that's kind of the only avenue you would be able to find. You just passing the name around, you don't find anybody down at the actual docks that has heard of this person. Notably, though, Fettel has also not been seen at the docks.
Yeah, bribing is not really Florian's thing, so he's just gonna turn up empty-handed.
You know what I need to do?
But
I need to get an animated GIF of like finding a vile henchman in Carmen San Diego, and then play it whenever you guys hit something in your investigations.
complete with the
And then burn it whenever Florian walks away from it.
Like when the crossbow bolt just hits the screen, you know you're on the right track, Gumshoe.
Yeah.
And that evening, the plan is to return back to the barge and then go drinking with Percival Penniless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Once we hear the news.
Okay. The day's investigation's being done. Heading over to the 56 cards. This place is always packed at night. Mostly with local workers. Also with, quote-unquote, adherence to the goddess of chance, by which I mean illicit gambling.
Yeah. Oh,
I
we have
mean-
a map for 56 card now? Oh.
No, I have a map for the shallows.
Word.
Why would I
Well,
make
I
a
can't-
map for a bar?
I cannot think of any better way to like worship a deity of chance than to go to an underground illicit casino and just lose all your money.
Yeah,
Or
that's,
win-
Yeah.
High Priest
That's exactly
Oswald
right.
would agree with you.
I bet he would.
So the place is hopping. There's a lot of people in here. In fact, there's a couple of off-duty moss caps. Again, men that you don't recognize, whose patrols are in the shallows now, but weren't previously. Lucius frequents this place with alarming regularity, yes?
Yeah.
I'm going to say then that as long as you're here all the time, and you're actually friends with Oswald, it's always possible for you to find a table.
Yeah. And sure, why not?
And tonight you arrive, and Percival Penniless also has a table. It seems like he's turned off for the day. He's not currently giving a speech. He's relaxing with a mug of ale with 5 or 6 of his entourage, plus a couple of people who have pulled chairs up next to him, considering he is a kind of a celebrity in Dunfoss. He and his party have not noticed you entering yet.
Is the fellow who dropped by earlier today here? with
Oh
me?
yes, he's with him.
I'll make eye contact with him, let him know that so that he knows that I'm here.
And he gives you a nod and leans over and says something to Percival, who cranes his neck and acknowledges your group. And he raises his glass, motions to his table.
Yeah, I'll head over.
I'll take a seat.
Okay. And some of the other of the entourage have to be kind of waved away to make room for the lot of you. So you're not alone at this table with Percival. And you're kind of cramped in. There's not a lot of space because he's a popular guy. So it's the 5 of you and Percival and probably 2 or 3 others crammed up in chairs around the table.
Okay.
And when Percival speaks to you, he speaks in a conversational tone. Not his boisterous, everybody needs to hear this tone. And he offers you all around.
Accept.
And he raises his glass in Oswald's direction, and Oswald gives him acknowledgement. Your drinks come around shortly. he asks, again, conversationally, what, if anything, you guys know about Journey, this Tiefling, who thinks she can be king.
Is this a professional request? That's the second he asks the question.
Gus says
Seeker
we have,
puts the beer down and gives them full attention.
we have very reasonable rates.
Hey,
500 gold.
a little, sheepishly, like mock sheepishly, like he's joking about it. He says, well, they do call me Percival Penniless.
Oh, but you have so many friends.
He says, I do have many friends, and when I'm king, I will have even more.
You just crowdfund our fee is what you do.
Lucius narrows his eyes, says, I have done some preliminary investigation into that matter.
He says he suspects that she tried to have him killed yesterday. He can't think of anybody else who would have done this thing.
Why
So
would
that's all, what you have is motive and nothing else? No physical evidence?
Well, meaning no offense to present company, he gives a short nod to Lucius. Given what she is, the natural kinds of magic that she can do, summoning demons in the middle of a city, it's not exactly surgery. It's easy to connect the dots, no?
Gus will look over at Lucius. I'm pretty sure those weren't demons. Were those demons?
Doubtful.
I think demons have there's a lot more brimstone involved, from what I understand.
Well, they were creatures made of clouds that slung lightning. I'm not well versed in the technical terms of such things. Monsters, gremlins, ghoulies, call them what you will, but they were brought here by someone.
I mean, seeing as how they were made by natural phenomenon, I'd be more willing. My immediate knee jerk would be point the finger at a druid.
Lucius frowns and says that I don't think this is naturally occurring, obviously.
Well, no, such is the nature of infernal summonings.
Lucius pulls out one of the hook ends on that he's been doing research on, and places it in front of Alexander. Says, what kind of crossbow would you need to fire something like this?
Seeker sighs in the corner and raises his hand for another glass.
Could probably modify almost anything to fire that.
How long are these needles?
They're long enough that they could slide down into a custom-made crossbow bolt. So they're quite a bit longer than sewing needles, but they're not much thicker than a sewing needle.
So, really thin knitting needles?
Yeah, maybe. Something like that.
Okay. Alright.
Yeah, you might not even need a custom crossbow looking at this, Alex, but the manufacturing of the bolts would have to be very precise. That would be very labor-intensive.
I mean, it would take a lot of effort. Especially with a hand crossbow, it probably wouldn't be that hard to actually get something to work, but it would take... Also, I didn't find any remains of bolts, so they might have been consumed by the magic.
You did
Just
not.
the needles.
So, Alexander, how many people in the city would be able to make this? Like...
Do I have any idea how many alchemists there are?
No idea.
Yeah, probably want to ask the Census Bureau that one.
So Percival says, so you're thinking perhaps an alchemist has it out for me.
How many people actually hate you?
And he and some of his entourage laugh. He says, well, as a rule of thumb, the richer you are, the more you hate me. My father is one of the richest men in the city, and he hates me the most.
That actually gets a laugh out of Alex.
Gus kind of coughs into his hand and says, okay, is there any chance that they were not trying to kill you, but somebody that was with you?
And then you hear a clatter from across the room. The two off-duty moss caps suddenly lurch painfully forward onto their table. One of them, his stool, falls out from under him. And some people take note of the commotion, and some of them actually get up to leave.
Like, are they, like, sick doing that, or is it, like, a reaction to something someone said?
One of them is doubled over on the table. He's the one that you can see clearest. And his body looks doubled over, and it looks like he's twitching, and his muscles look seized up.
Alex immediately moves over to that guy and starts investigating for any signs of magical or, like, poison.
Alright, first of all, this is the second weird thing happening. You out. And he
Gus is
points
going
towards
to
the
go
door.
over and like give like a once over, like kind of like medicine.
Okay. All of those are good ideas. Let's roll initiative.
Ah, initiative, you say, eh?
McDohl's told me.
Yeah.
He
Look at that
said.
natural 20.
What do you say?
I don't want to hear it.
He said you have a map of the 56 cards.
Yeah, I remember saying it wouldn't be the first time you had a map of an inn. For just such an occasion.
Oh, like okay. Can everybody move their tokens to the left, because this is bothering me? We played the entire campaign with the tokens on the left side, now they're on the right side, and it's just bothering me.
I did that on
Okay.
purpose to see if it would bother anybody.
It did. Good job.
Mission accomplished.
Well, if they're on the right side, that means you know someone hasn't moved their tile yet. See, it's all thought. It's thinking.
I'm guessing this is the table we've occupied.
Probably the big round one over here, yeah.
Stoyan.
So this red token here, actually I'm going to make all these a little bigger. I should just make permanent and persistent pawns. That would probably be easier.
That sounds real good.
Yeah, I should probably just do that. I probably should have done that 4 years ago. Typically when I change the color of these things, you guys can't see it. Does this one appear as green to you guys?
That one is green now, yes.
Okay.
When you change the color once they're on the board, we can see it. It's when
mean,
you
if you-
like drop them differently.
If you
This is
approach
a-
a red pawn fast enough, it'll appear green regardless.
I thought it was a very good joke.
I liked it. It was very Destil.